Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another half-baked episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. And here's your host, Alan Mosley.
I really like this whole new...
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's nice. It's comfortable. It's a lot better than just sitting in that chair, you know?
Hold on. Tell me the truth. Do you actually like it?
I do like it.
Okay.
I like it a lot.
Okay. If you didn't, would you tell me?
Absolutely. Why'd I lie to you?
Thank you so much for being here for another episode of The Gold Standard. I am your host, Alan Mosley. Guys, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. You can follow me on Twitter, which is probably a pretty bad idea. You probably shouldn't follow me on Twitter, which is at Alan M. Mosley. But if you do, you'll see me constantly retweeting warmongers with "this person is morally bankrupt, fuck you." And it's just spammed. It's just the whole wall. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, it's Twitter at Alan M. Mosley. Right. But you don't have to do any of that because you can just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com. It's down there.
It's right here. Look, right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
There it
right
is.
There.
You can see it.
Yeah.
So we have, if anybody who's watched the episode right before this one knows, and there's no one left after that. There's no one left
after what you said last week? I don't know, man.
I did a little mic drop thing last week, but if you're still here with us and you're thinking, well, Alan, if no one's a real libertarian to you, then who the hell is? I'll tell you who the hell is.
That's right.
It's our guest today. Our guest today, making his second appearance on the show. It's really only a second appearance in like 3 or 4 weeks because it's Christmas and me and Clay were sitting around and we were like, well, what did you get me? And he said, well, I got you nothing. And I said, well, I didn't get you anything either. Well, then we'll just do another show together. I think that's fair. Is that good, Clay?
Yeah, man. I think that's the best Christmas present I could ask for. Man.
So Clay Davis is back on the show. Who is? You know what? Let Michael Bolton know I've created you a title. You are a regional coordinator of the 10th Amendment Center, which you can find at 10thamendmentcenter. Is it com or org?
It's calm.
It's calm. It's so bad that I've had so many people on the show and I've advertised it like 50 times and now I'm asking you live on air, is it com or org? So it's com.
Yeah, I always get it.
Okay. So it's not just us. So, Clay, the last time you were on the show, we talked about surveillance. We talked about some juicy tidbits you had up there in Lexington because you actually went to a mayoral debate, which kudos to you, by the way, because I don't think I could get through that without throwing up all over myself. But today we have you back for an awesome topic, which for people who are watching this on YouTube as opposed to listening on Stitcher, Google Play, or iTunes, hint, hint, they can see a book right there over your shoulder. I'm not actually talking about Snowden, although Saint Snowden is looking down upon us. I'm talking about the other one that says "Too High to Fail." Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Reefer Madness at the Gold Standard. This is it. This is going to be the one episode where you learn everything you have to know about marijuana, legalization movement, how the 50 states are reacting, and everything in between. And we have an expert on the subject, Clay Davis. Clay, are you up to the challenge?
Let's get our hits on, man. I think we got a show in the makings here.
All right, so we're going to start off with, and this was actually per your suggestion. So tell me a little bit of the news that's going around the country as it pertains to marijuana legalization, and start us off in New Jersey.
Well, it's probably easier to talk about what's not happening. There's so much happening nowadays in across the nation. We've got about 33 states now that have taken action to either legalize for medicinal use or personal use. And the most recent among them, we have Michigan, which has a very, very awesome law now, personal use and medicinal use. And of all places, Utah, which was considered by many to be a red state locked up that never going to ever decriminalize, and they just actually had a ballot initiative, but there's some shenanigans going on there.
Well, hold on a second. I'm going to pause you right there. So I think I've heard a lot about that because I follow Connor Boyack on Twitter and Facebook, and I've heard him talking about Prop 2 probably 1,000 times. It's been pretty ugly out there, hasn't it?
It really is. And I had just caught wind of this recently. There was a ballot initiative, Prop 2, where the people came out, they spoke their voice, and seemingly the state government there felt like the proposal was a little bit too lax and there was not enough regulation. So they went behind the people's voice and they went into sessions and had public and private discussions, and they put together a replacement bill that is going to replace the proposition vote of the people. They say that it's I guess it's going to be more of a compromise, but I don't know what there is to compromise when the people pretty much spoke. So essentially you have the federal government saying, yeah, no, we can't relinquish this kind of power, and we're going to have to keep involved, to the degree that my little bit of research that I just did this morning on it, the state of Utah wants to tag and track every plant that's grown for consumption in the state. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that track a plant. Clearly, over the course of the war on drugs, they've had a hard time eradicating the plant, much less tracking it. These states can cut down literally millions of plants and still not have any adverse effect to the supply chain of the plant as far as its necessity to be consumed in the open market. Why do they think that they're effectively going to be able to tag and track every plant that's going to be consumed in the state? This is just insanity.
I think this kind of belies the point that a lot of people make is that I don't want to not be happy when progress is made, right? Like if we've taken a half of a step towards liberty, then we should be happy as opposed to no step at all. However, I think a lot of people, and you can touch on this because I know this is your field. What do you say to people that would say, well, I'm really concerned that all we're really trading in is we're getting one little bit of liberty, but they're going to create huge chunks more government bureaucracy to tax and regulate.
And that's the big issue to be concerned with, is the regulation, the involvement with of government in the actual industry itself. If they would allow it to be an industry and participate in the open market, it'd be a whole lot better on everybody. One of the arguments you hear is the argument between whether states should legalize or decriminalize. And a lot of people make an argument that decriminalization is better. Mm-hmm. In the long run, even though you do get a lot of government intervention and you get a lot of government involvement, if you go full-blown legalization, one of the positive products of that is that you actually get some control of quality in the market. And when you have competition, clearly those dispensaries that are operating as a business, they want to attract as many customers as possible. And in order to do that, they have an incentive to provide a good quality and a good service. Mm-hmm. So when you start getting overregulated, you start putting incredible taxes on this, you start putting hoops for the business owners to jump through, all you're doing is creating an adversarial market that's really not allowing for growth, and it's not allowing for fairness for development of business. It's government screwing stuff and picking winners and losers. And a lot of times, some of these states you've seen that have legalized, the states go so far as to limit the number of people that have licenses to distribute. And they usually handpick these people. And you know what happens when the government's picking winners and losers and stuff like that? You get a lot of cronyism. And you get a lot of good old boy system. You get people that have no idea what they're doing, involved in an industry that is providing medicine, people who need it.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely cause for concern, because I'm afraid that people who are opponents of what I feel is the right thing. Of course, to me it's absurd that anything that you do yourself with your own body could possibly be regulated by the state. But of course, we understand that most people are not philosophically in the camp that you or I are in. I'm really concerned that our opponents will point to these types of issues and say, well, there you go. This is a perfect example of why we can't have nice things, because the ensuing government bureaucracy that's tied to it and the cost of it outweighs the benefits. You had mentioned a little bit ago that at this point it's probably easier to talk about where there's no movement happening as opposed to where it is, because so many states are trending in that direction. What about our neck of the woods? Kentucky, Tennessee, that area.
I can't really speak too much about Tennessee, but I can definitely tell you what's going on here in Kentucky. We got really close in this last legislative session of getting some marijuana legalization here in our state of Kentucky. Not close enough, but we did get several legislators who swayed their opinion and started to come around quite a bit. Many years ago, we had a local politician here named Gatewood Galbraith who would run for governor, and he was doing activism on legalization back in the 90s. And it's kind of cool to see, all this time has passed. Gatewood's he's passed away, and we still have no laws on the book here whatsoever. I have a feeling that not this time around, but the next time, next legislative session, we will actually get a chance to get some movement. This next legislative session is they don't deal with any revenue bills, and we're marijuana because taxation, which actually generates revenue for the state. They won't be able to discuss it this time. The next session in 2020, I fully expect that we will probably have some positive results here.
Yeah. Now, we had talked a little bit before the show about a really big hypothetical that I want us to riff on a little bit on air. Do you think that there is a possibility that by the time we're on our way through the 2020 election cycle, and I'm talking about the next presidential election, which my stomach just turns thinking that it's already time for that crap again, but here we are. What do you think of the chances that the feds reschedule marijuana in order for the purposes of a political move, nothing else, that would help Trump's numbers and his image with the public if he were to say, oh, no, we're just going to reschedule marijuana because the people have spoken and that's the direction the country's moving in? What are the chances you think of seeing that happen?
I think you're going to see some extremely high chances for a couple of reasons. For one, it's low-hanging fruit. And Trump's going to need all the help he can get to try to get reelected. The other side of the coin is, do the Democrats, now that they have control of the House, do they try to get it done before he does so that they can take credit for it? So it's going to end up being a pissing contest as to who's going to give the pot to the people first. But the one thing that's interesting to note, last week, the United States Surgeon General, what's his name here, Jerome Adams, came out last week and called for rescheduling. So you can already see the mechanism, the Trump mechanism is already starting to grind out here. Yeah. You have somebody in his administration who he appointed this guy back in June, came out last week, and he said that the discussion to be had, his justification for it was because the current schedule, with it being a Schedule I drug with no medical benefits whatsoever, it prohibits the proper study of marijuana. Mm-hmm. So as Surgeon General, he's coming from the angle that if we reschedule it, it's going to allow us to take a closer look and really find out what the benefits are, because, you hear it can cure everything. Yeah. And we all know it can't do that. It is a miraculous plant, but I'm sure that there are limitations as to what it can do, and it probably does some things better than others. But because of the law in this country, we've not been able to do real concrete studies on it because it's been prohibited as a Schedule I drug. Mm-hmm. So it's really fascinating to me, because I really think with it being low-hanging fruit, this is a no-brainer for Trump to go for this and try to garner some favor in the ballot booth. So I think when you start seeing his United States Surgeon General coming out making statements like that, it's pretty evident that's where we're headed.
To be clear, by the way, for our audience, I give, whether it's the Trump administration that gets it done or whether it's Democrats taking over, I give them no credit for this. I actually use the phrase that I will take any step towards liberty that we get, but I'm not giving them credit. All this really means is that they're so wildly incompetent, they accidentally voted for liberty. It's purely an accident on their part.
Even beyond that, it's pretty much just saying, hey, we can't do anything to stop the states from nullifying this federal law, so we might as well just go ahead and cave, because we don't have the resources to follow up. We don't have the resources to enforce it. And there's already a majority of states that have pretty much, for those of you out in the audience who don't feel that nullification is actually a thing, it is. The only way that this has happened in 33 states is for the states to actually nullify federal law, because right now federal law states that marijuana is a Schedule I narcotic and is completely illegal. The states come override that one at a time. The federal government does not have the resources to enforce these laws anymore, and it's become an exercise in futility. So you start seeing more and more of that happening across the nation. The federal government is going to have to cave in on this.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. I want to take a little bit of a sidestep from Reefer Madness for just a moment, because you brought up the nullification angle, and of course I know you do work with the 10th Amendment Center, so I'm not exactly surprised you did. Is the potential there for this to be just the ultimate feather in the cap for the nullification movement and for people like organizations like the 10th Amendment Center? Because it kind of seems to me that you're right. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of statists out there. There's a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans. But there's also even some liberty-minded people out there that say, whether we agree or disagree on anything, nullification's not legit. Like, that's not a thing. Or you have those really ignorant types that'll say, well, we fought a war over that in the middle of the 19th century. We decided that's wrong. Like, which that's bozo level. We're talking 60 IQ level stuff. But still, there's a lot of people that think that way about nullification as a movement. Would a potential rescheduling of marijuana due to lack of enforcement capability, is that like the ultimate proven factor that nullification is real and works?
I think it certainly is. Many of my colleagues at the 10th Amendment Center, Michael Bolden, Mike Maharry, have used this as a pretty good demonstration, as a really good example of nullification at work. It's a modern day model of how the states can actually undo these unjust and unconstitutional laws that are coming down on us. And it takes a matter of time sometimes for these things to happen. It takes people to organize, but without question, the marijuana movement, this reefer madness that's going across the nation, is a perfect example of how nullification works and how it can work. And we can apply this to any number of things. I mean, you just look at the manner in which the battle has been waged and conducted, and the manner in which states are winning. You can apply this to a whole bunch of things. And I think maybe we'll see, once the federal government backs off and caves in, we might start seeing this applied to a lot more different topics.
Now let me get back into the area of the hypothetical, because really, what's the gold standard with Alan Mosley if not just wild hypothetical situations? Let's say hypothetically marijuana is rescheduled tomorrow. What do you think happens next for the countless people currently incarcerated for marijuana offenses?
What I'd like to see happen, I would like to start seeing people get let out of these rape cages. They've been locked in for nonviolent crimes that haven't hurt anyone. really awesome news coming out of Denver. The mayor of Denver just announced his administration is going to move to vacate low-level marijuana convictions for Denver residents. Mm-hmm. Between 2001 and 2013, this affected 10,000 people.
How many people?
10,000.
What, 10,000? So he's trying to move to let out 10,000.
Between 2001 and 2013, reportedly it affected 10,000 people who were incarcerated, jailed for low-level marijuana offenses. Mm-hmm. The good news on this is I didn't hear much about them letting folks out of jail yet. I certainly hope they start doing that, but they are going to start expunging these records, and they're also going to start sealing these records, which means these folks are they're going to be eligible to get jobs that they were currently not eligible to get. Sure. They're going to be able to get assistance. They're going to be able to do things in society without being regarded as a convicted criminal for doing something that doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
These people, I tell you what, man, if you cannot have resentment, if you've used this plant, if you currently use plant and you're not resentful for being regarded as a criminal, something's wrong with you. Mm-hmm. I personally am I harbor a lot of resentment and a lot of anger over the fact that I try to live a good life, and because of some choices that I make that hurt no one else, that only have to do with me, I'm regarded as a criminal, and I've been regarded as a criminal for damn near the majority of my adult life. Well, and it's got to stop.
I definitely would like to think that this is one of those things where history will look back and we'll think, boy, how wrong was it, that people suffered for such a long time over such a silly thing. I mean, we're not talking about theft or rape or murder. We're not talking about what the state does. We're talking about what people do. I guess what I would say, Clay, is I'm a skeptic. I'm such a cynical guy. Everybody that knows me knows that. Man, Alan is just depressingly cynical. I'm really afraid that all of those people who are currently serving time, that because I was actually speaking to a scholar just recently about this, who was saying to me that, well, if it's rescheduled, then people who were convicted under federal charges may be released, but people who have charges related on a state level, they will have to go back to court in order to have that expunged or to be released or whatever. And so it's not that it can't happen, but there's another step of the process. And me being the cynic that I am, I'm just thinking, that these, pardon my language, these cocksuckers are going to drag their feet, and they're going to let some poor kids, they're going to let some kids spend another 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, wasting away while they slowly grind the gears of the judicial process. It just like I said, I know I should feel happy if we're making steps towards liberty, but I also know that people are suffering right now, and it can't happen soon enough.
Yeah, and that's another byproduct of all this. Even in Denver, they were talking about how labor intensive this is going to be to go through these records, expunge and seal these records for these people. And my answer to that, I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. I don't care how labor intensive it's going to be. I don't care how much time and effort you need to do this. It's the right thing to do. The shitty thing about it is, for many years during the drug war, people who have been convicted of marijuana-related offenses have been subjugated to paying fines and getting thrown in rape cages, and the state has profited off of these people. Mm-hmm. Now they're going to continue to profit off of these people by flipping the script and going legal and saying, hey, we considered you a pariah all this time, but now you're okay. But we're also going to charge you these taxes on what you do. So we're still going to profit off of you. And the very least you can do while you're screwing every pot smoker in America without giving them the courtesy of a reach around is at least expunge their fucking records and give them a chance to have a decent life again. Some of these folks, There are guys doing years and years of time for infinitesimal small amounts of marijuana, and you've got people that are committing violent crimes, or they're actually stealing money, white-collar crimes, or stealing, embezzling money, and these people get a slap on the wrist. Pot smokers are the revenue generators for America for a long time. The very less, and if reparations for pot smokers are a thing, and it's going to come in the form of giving us a free slate, I'm all for it, man. Let's do that.
Yeah, but you know what the problem is, though, is that as soon as you start deciding who gets reparations for what, then you're going to have, like, just millions of people. Well, I mean, you already do, though, right? You already have millions of people lined up at Uncle Sam's door saying, well, this one time I stubbed my toe at Piggly Wiggly, so I think I should get $250,000.
I think more or less it speaks to how many people the government's wronged if they're all going to line up and say, you fucked me, man, you owe me.
Yeah, well, I mean...
We'll have one group after another just lining up saying, I want my reparations.
Yeah, but what is it? There's like 317 or whatever it is million people in the United States. That's how many people the government's wronged. So this is, you want to talk about the labor hours it's going to go into legislating that shit. It's going to take a minute.
Expensive job getting those reparations out to 300 million people.
You know, I remember now what I was going to say is we went into the wrong line of work. If you and I had known like 5 or 6 years ago that, man, they're going to reschedule weed and then you're going to have like 7 million people wanting to get out of prison, but they're going to want to have to retry their case. Boy, we should have been lawyers.
Yeah,
that
man.
is where the money is at.
Yep. And the rubber stamp of approval, they're just going to move them like cattle. Just one right after the other, man. Getting that check.
I would be offended that you would use the analogy like cattle, but I know that that's what they think we are. They look at us as cattle, so we might as well just embrace it and move on. Yeah. So...
On a good note, man, getting back to some current news, New Jersey, we meant to hit on that earlier, man. They just had a personal use bill pass their House committee, and it's actually going to get a vote. So New Jersey may be the next one to actually enact some kind of medical or personal. Actually, this one's personal use legislation. So keep adding it to the list.
Now, it's funny that you bring that up. So that's what I was driving at earlier with our ass-backward states like Kentucky and Tennessee, is that a lot of your typical right-wing Bible Belt types who live in states like a Kentucky or a Tennessee, in their minds, they think, what do they call California California, right? Like, oh, man, I'd never go to California. They're so backwards. And in a lot of ways, they are. To be fair, man, New York, New Jersey, those are like the most crooked, corrupt places in the Chicago, Illinois. Like, oh my God, the mob runs that town. But you know what's funny though is that those places are getting movement on issues like marijuana decriminalization or legalization, whereas these supposed freedom-loving, America flag-waving types, the needle's not moving. What do you say to that?
I think that's pretty much what you get when you have so-called conservatives who actually believe they're conservative and have no idea what they're doing, and then these people go out and vote.
That's the problem right there, is that these people go out and vote. Exactly. Well, I'm afraid to ask Blake how much time do we have left, because we've had some technical difficulties in this episode. So we may be at 30 minutes. We may be at 3 hours. We don't even know. But we're gonna start to draw the episode to a close here. But we're gonna play a game before you go. I've already asked Clay if a hot dog is a sandwich, and he answered correctly that it is. So that's why he's back, because if he didn't, he wouldn't be here. But we're actually going to play a game. So Blake, I want you to put 30 seconds on the clock.
If I got 30 seconds.
I say that as if Blake has just got a little thing.
Trying something here.
I'm going to
there
point.
you go. Wait a minute.
Hold on. I'm going to point to this corner.
There it goes. Wait.
No.
Wait.
Yes. No.
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on.
Now there's two Clays.
I got it.
No, okay. Yes. Now there's me and Clay. So I'm pointing to this corner. No. Blake's going to sit there. So I'm going to point to this corner.
Point to that corner.
Point to this corner.
Okay. There
Blake,
we go.
put 30 seconds on the
30
clock.
30 seconds on the clock.
All
right
right.
here. I'll try. I'll see if I can. It's right above my head.
Clay, are you ready?
Let's do it.
In 30 seconds, I want you. I don't even have a timer here on the desk. How am I going to know that it's 30 seconds?
Hold on. Well, doggone it.
This is.
I even have an. I will be right back.
No, it's fine. I've got a laptop. What? This fucking amateur operation. The reason why nobody listens to the gold standard is because of this. But
30 seconds.
This is
I'll
why.
try.
This is why they should be listening to the gold standard.
That's right, because it's funny. Let's say, okay, look, I've got one of these here fangledy iPhone things here.
Okay.
And it can do like timers and stuff. Okay, there it goes.
Okay. 30 seconds
Say
on the
when.
clock. Clay, when I say go, give me as many names for marijuana as you can give in 30 seconds. Are you ready?
Do it.
Go.
All right, we got marijuana, we got dank, we got sensimilia, we got ganja, we've got the devil's lettuce.
Whoa.
We have, let's see here, Greta, which is really, really, really low quality weed. We've got
Last Dance with
Funk, Budokan.
4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
So
Not bad.
I got 8, but I'm going to give you 9 because you never actually said weed, but you were talking about
He did
different
say
kinds
weed.
of weed.
I think he said weed.
Well, he said
did
the
he say
word
Mary
weed.
Jane? Did you say Mary Jane?
Did you say Mary Jane?
I did not say Mary.
Okay, so we're going to give you 9,
Yes,
but
we'll give
Tom
you 9.
Petty, his heart is broken right now.
Well,
because
it ain't working.
you didn't
he's 6
use.
feet under, unfortunately.
I
Yeah.
feel like I kind of choked there.
I miss
Yeah.
Tom Petty.
That's all right. I was pretty proud. I remember devil's lettuce.
Yeah.
The
That
devil-
one's different. That one's different.
Well, as you were going, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I can think of any that he's not naming right now. Would you count skunk weed and weed as 2?
I don't know. It has the word weed in it.
Right.
Does that count as a different one?
See, and having grown up in the hood, there may or may not be very many people who are familiar with the term Greta.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, Greta, it's the low end stuff you buy. It's mostly pencil shavings with a little bit of weed.
I wouldn't know.
See,
I wouldn't know.
all right. So that was surprising, to say the least. But we'll actually get you out of here on this one. What is your best argument? Give me like 30 seconds. What is your best argument to a complete skeptic / naysayer of any type of illegal drug? What is the best 30-second argument you give them for legalization?
About Indian, it's really difficult when you start broad basing it. I'm accustomed to doing the marijuana argument, and you can really look at that from over 2,000 years of recorded medical history. There's not been one person who's died from smoking marijuana. The biggest thing, the biggest factor, is getting it accepted through use of pop culture. Mm-hmm. Same way that the gay movement had so much that you had Will and Grace. It was pushed into everybody's living room. You started seeing a shit like Weeds come on TV, or where you had a mom who was slinging weed on the side to make her pills. What it did counteract and gave a human face to people who use marijuana. It let people know that your neighbors, your coworkers are using this stuff and have been for a long time, and nobody is being hurt. No, they're not bad people. They're people you like and admire and that you work alongside with. That's been the biggest thing to me that's moved the dial. Getting it into pop culture. I think we've all made the statement, the observation that politics kind of follows culture. So when we have these things that are contentious, if we can get some kind of pop culture recognition. It helps because what the government does, especially with drug criminals, when they're launching a drug war on everybody, they dehumanize everybody. They make everybody look like they're vicious animals and they need to be detained and removed from society. Man, shows like Beat, some of the other, where you start seeing pot kind of filtered into scripts and in movie scenes and on TV, what that does, it takes the edge off of that bullshit, that lies that the government's been perpetuating all these years. And it really shows that humans use this planet. And people you trust, you love, people you don't, lawyers, legislators, they're using it too. I can guarantee you that not all of the marijuana that police confiscate makes it into the evidence room. I promise you that. So there's a lot of people in our society who use it, and they're pretty good people. So to me, the argument that could have been made is getting it widely spread in pop culture and showing people that it's really not that bad, man.
I'm going to attempt to summarize what Clay just said into like 10 seconds. There's no point in having marijuana be illegal, because if you think that stops people, they're already doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing it right now.
Yeah.
So if what you're concerned about is if we legalize marijuana, a bunch of people will be smoking marijuana, dude, wake the fuck up. They've been doing that for years and years and years, and and yet the world still turns.
Yeah.
The kids have survived. Think of the children; they still skip their merry way to school every day, and the world continues on. Clay,
next stop is going to be mushrooms. I think you're going to start seeing a pretty big push in getting psilocybin and magic mushrooms decriminalized next. And I think there's a good case that can be made for it. Just about it. Case is the one that was made for marijuana.
So when we're ready here in a year or two to do Mushroom Madness, the gold standard, we're going to bring back Clay for mushroom. So write that down. Mushroom Madness is going to feature on the gold standard whenever.
Coming near you.
Yeah. Clay, thank you so much for being on the show,
Clay.
my friend.
Thanks for having me, Alan. Hope you have a great Christmas, man.
You too, absolutely. We're going to try our best. Guys and everybody at home, if you've enjoyed this show, and really, how could you not have?
Yeah,
how could you not have enjoyed every second of the 7 or 8 different takes that we did to make this show happen? Every single minute of it was a delight. So thank you so much to my producer, Blake, who has to go put this absolute abomination together. And if you want to follow us at home, you can do so on Facebook, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Drop in and let us know what you think about the show. If you enjoyed it, let us know. If you didn't, we'll ban you, so it's fine. Twitter is at Alan M. Mosley. But you don't have to do any of that, because you can just find us on our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com. Anything else?
Nope.
I feel like I have to reach way down now to give you the high five for the end of the show.
There it is.
There we go. We will see you next week.